Imagine for a moment that you are walking along a path and you reach a fork in the road. And though you have never walked this path and thus have no idea what to expect from either direction presented, there's a helpful signpost explaining. One path may seem incredibly easy at first. We can do whatever we want down that path, and it does not ask us to think much or have intention about our actions. But ultimately, this path will not lead to our destination. In fact, once you've gone a significant distance down this path, you will begin to encounter all sorts of danger and peril along the road. You may even become lost and find it difficult to return to where you started. The second path, however, seems much harder. It's full of rocky cliffs that you will need the assistance of others to scale. The path is not smooth, and you will have to pay close attention to each step in order to keep your balance. However, at the end of this path, will you not only reach your destination, but you will find a beautiful meal laid out for you and everyone traveling with you. In our Torah portion this week, the Israelites find themselves at this divide in the road. As we come closer to the end of the book of Deuteronomy, Moses retells the story of the Exodus and wandering through the wilderness to a new generation of Israelites, hoping to impart the wisdom that he has learned along this journey and the importance of keeping God's commandments before they enter the land of Canaan. Moses, knowing he will not enter the land, is like a parent about to send their child off to school, trying to pack in as much wisdom as he can, reminding the Israelites how to live upright and righteous lives, how to treat one another, and how to obey God. In our portion this week, called Ki Tavo, Moses has some of the Israelites stand on one mountain and others stand on another. He recites a list of blessings that Israel will experience if they behave righteously and follow God's laws. And for each blessing, the people say, Amen, affirming their understanding and commitment. Next, Moses warns the people what will happen if they disobey God, if they mistreat one another. The rains will stop, famine and disease will run rampant throughout the land, the people will suffer, die, or go into exile. And after this list of curses, the people respond, Amen, affirming their understanding of the warning and consequences that will befall them should they behave in these reprehensible ways. And the curses in this section of the Torah are quite dark and graphic in their descriptions of violence and suffering, although they echo the experiences of many oppressed peoples in the world today. In many communities, when this portion is read, these verses are read quickly and in an undertone, as we do not wish to dwell too long on the troubling content. In the Torah and much of classic Jewish literature, there's a clear idea of divine reward and punishment for human behavior. If we act justly, God will reward us. If we behave atrociously, God will punish us. In some ways, it's a very simple moral code to live by, but it doesn't work for a lot of us today. As progressive Jews, we might not hold on to these tenets of divine reward and punishment. In fact, many of us have chosen to step away from this theology and understanding of our relationships with God and religion. And so in that case, what wisdom can we draw from these warnings? Before we look at some of these verses, it's important to understand an important value in Judaism, achrayut, which is responsibility to one another. Our tradition asks us to be in constant, intentional relationship with each other. Traditionally, some prayers are only said with a minyan, a quorum of 10 adults. We are asked to care for the vulnerable, visit the sick, clothe and feed those who need help, and create community with one another through compassion and action. Our tradition reminds us that we are all connected and responsible for one another, and that none of us exist on an island or in a vacuum. Vayikra Rabbah, a collection of rabbinic commentary, tells this story. It is like a group of people on a ship. One of them takes a drill and begins drilling a hole beneath himself, and the others cry out, "Why are you doing this?" And he says, "What do you care? I'm only drilling beneath my own seat." And the others say, but you will flood the whole boat. Our sages remind us that the impact of our actions goes far beyond ourselves, and that we are responsible to consider the collective consequences of our choices. This week's portion says, all these blessings shall come upon you and take effect if you heed the word of the Lord. Blessed shall you be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the country. Blessed shall be the issue of your womb, your produce from the soil, and the offspring of your cattle, the calving of your herd, and the lambing of your flock. Blessed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Blessed shall you be in your comings, and blessed shall you be in your goings. But then a few verses later, the Torah warns us of the opposite. If you do not obey God to observe faithfully all the commandments and laws that I enjoin upon you this day, all these curses shall come upon you and take effect. Cursed shall you be in the city and in the country. Cursed shall be your basket and kneading bowl. Cursed shall be the issue from your womb and your produce from the soil, the calving from the herd and the lambing of your flock. Cursed shall you be in your comings, and cursed shall you be in your goings. And these curses, which do get much darker, continue for 54 verses. So it is a large section of this reading. And there are several moments in the Torah with similar warnings of punishment for not following God's laws. And the Torah often uses weather and harvest-based descriptions of reward and punishment because it's an agricultural society. If Israel follows God, the rain comes in the right time, and the produce and harvest will be plentiful. While many of us rely on the grocery store for our produce today, we can imagine how devastating it would be for a farmer for a famine and drought to destroy their crop. Of course, we could see parallels to the Torah's warning in our own world today in relation to the climate crisis. Islands and coastlines are being swallowed up by rising sea levels. Higher temperatures have led to more heat-related illnesses and deaths, and droughts and floods do wreak havoc on communities around the globe. I choose not to see these as divine punishment, but they do hauntingly remind us of the cost of human action or inaction on the natural world. But beyond these parallels, I invite us to see these blessings and curses in a more metaphorical sense. Thinking back to our opening story, as we walked along the rocky path together, we came to a split that invited us to take an easy path, which eventually led nowhere, or to walk down a trickier path, one that required collective effort and cooperation, but ultimately led us to our destination together. We can read the Torah's blessings and curses as the natural outcome of our actions towards ourselves, towards one another, and towards the world around us. If we strive to see the best in each other, to share our resources, to treat each other with compassion, thoughtfulness, and respect, then we create families, communities, cities, and eventually a world of kindness and love. In this way, we have the power to create the blessings that the Torah describes. One where everyone has enough to eat, is blessed with the bountiful harvest of friendship, community, and joy. If we sow goodness into the world around us, we are blessed to harvest that goodness once more. However, we also have the power to manifest the Torah's curses. If we treat each other with suspicion and contempt, if we build walls and fences around ourselves and push one another away, if we stop seeing ourselves as connected to and invested in each other, we create a world of disconnect and pain and loneliness. We withhold the metaphoric rains from ourselves and others, and we find no bountiful harvest of community and strength. Rav Kook, a late 19th, early 20th century rabbi and thinker, wrote, "A person's ethical responsibility grows in accordance with his awareness of the interconnected nature of such a universe. And that too adds energy to his spirit in his quest to make himself whole." Rav Kook believed that the more we understand, the more that we understand that we are connected to one another and to the entire world around us and universe, the more ethical responsibility we have to behave justly. In doing this work, we discover more of ourselves and we get closer to reaching our highest potential. But I would like to add another layer to this. I think it is imperative for us to challenge ourselves to become more interconnected, not to be lulled into complacency by settling for our current understandings of ourselves or others, but rather to constantly strive to find points of connection between us and those people who feel most distant from us, whether they come from another religion, race, class, country. If we are truly to understand our impact on the world around us, we must be willing to look beyond the boundaries of our current understanding of the world. Our Torah portion reminds us that we have the power to create the future that we want through our actions, or to create this chaotic nightmare full of disaster and destruction. And in the moments that are hardest, we are asked to hold tight to our own humanity while constantly striving to see the good in others around us. And so as we move now closer and closer to the high holidays, a time of both personal and communal reflection, I'll invite us to ask ourselves what sort of future we want to build. What metaphorical seeds are we planting, and what will we harvest from them? How can we better understand our collective responsibility to one another and take action to create the brighter future we want to see? Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Sages, teaches, it's not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. No one individual person can solve all of the crises in the world today, but we're expected to keep showing up for each other, to see ourselves as connected and responsible for one another. And just as the Israelites agree as they stand at the edge of the Promised Land, to commit to working together to create a just, compassionate, and kind world we wish to live in, and thus bring these blessings, create blessings amongst ourselves, as the Torah describes.